We will go ahead and convene into our regular meeting open session. There was no action taken in closed. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. This is cool. We'll start with call to order and roll call.
Councilmember Barnes.
Present.
Councilmember Bettina.
Here.
Councilmember Parlett.
Here.
Councilmember Spur.
Present.
And Mayor Turner.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Pro Tem, would you read the pledge, please?
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move to acceptance of the agenda and any urgency items.
We do have one item we need to pull from the agenda.
Okay.
The members of the Clear Lake Trail and Trellis Club were not able to attend this evening, so we put their item to another meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any urgency items?
No, we don't.
All right, so with that then, I'll ready for acceptance of the agenda motion?
Would that be a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Yes. Second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. These are items that are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be acted upon at one motion unless any council member requests their removal from the consent agenda. Today we have waive reading except by title of any ordinances under consideration. Approve the minutes of the City Council regular meeting of April 17th, 2018. Approve the warrant register of April 20th, 2018. Approve application WP 2018-001 with staff recommendations for the 2018 Grillin' on the Green event to be held August 4th, 2018. Approve application 2018-017 with staff recommendations for the 2018 Cardboard and Duct Tape Regatta to be held July 4th, 2018. And approve application 2018-18 with staff recommendations for the 2018 Fun Walk and 5K Run event to be held May 27th, 2018. Approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the Lakeport Unified School District and the City of Lakeport Police Department for the services of a school resource officer for fiscal years 2018-19 and 2019-20, and direct the city manager to sign. And finally, receive and file the draft minutes of the April 18th, 2018 MZAC meeting. What does MZAC stand for?
City Advisory Committee.
Awesome, thank you very much. Does the council wish to remove any of these items? No? Is there any member of the public who'd like to speak to any of these items? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council.
Madam Mayor, move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to citizens' input. Anyone present may speak for up to 3 minutes about an item that is within the authority of the council, but not already listed on today's agenda. Do we have any requests? Oh, stop. My word. We have a few requests. We will start out with Dennis Rollins regarding Westside Community Park. Must be grilling on the green time.
I'm so predictable. Well, actually, I'm going to get to that.
Just teasing you.
Yeah. The real reason I came was, well, you know that I really came to say something about one of your departments. We've been mowing and stuff at the Westside Community Park with a funky old Craftsman mower that we bought used after our new one was stolen, and then we bought the school district's, zero-turn mower after they were buying a new one. All of these things have been in pretty poor repair. We've had to fix them a lot. So we're buying a new zero-turn riding lawnmower, a $12,000 lawnmower, using some of the funds from our Grillin' on the Green last year. And it was, we're getting a great deal. It's a $12,000 mower. We're going to pay $9,700 for it because Jim Mayfield is going to sell it to us at cost at Rainbow Ag. So
Nice.
awesome. So that's a very nice thing. It was supposed to come in the middle of April, and when it didn't come, I called to see what was going on, and they said, well, now it's going to be like the middle of May. And the day after I called, the Hustler mower broke down while trying to mow the dog park.
Oh.
Yeah. So I went to see Doug, my backup guy, and I said, hey, our mower's broken down, we got a new one coming, it didn't come when we thought. Do you think maybe you could send somebody out to mow? I know it's tough, maybe at least once during the next couple of weeks, because we do have West Shore Little League Softball League playing out there, and the Lakeport team that is a men's soccer league playing as their home field. So we have a lot going on there. And Doug said immediately, hey, I think I just heard our trailer roll in. So if they can go over and pick up your mower, could you go load it on there now? And so he said, I'll get our mechanic to work on it and get it back so you can limp through until your new mower comes. But it had a lot of really good support from the Lakeport Public Works Department and from the Parks Department. And Doug didn't even hesitate. He just said, hey, let's see if we can't fix your mower for you.
Awesome.
Very, very nice thing. And they've done a lot of things for us, a couple of which I mentioned to you in the past, but a lot of things that I haven't mentioned to you. And I do want you to know that I do go see Doug sometimes just to visit, and not always with my hand out. But now, since you mentioned Grill on the Green, Grill on the Green, as you just approved, is on August the 4th. We appreciated having the team from the city last year. We hope we'll have it again this year. And we also have our second fundraiser that we started, which is the Run, which you just approved also. And that's on Sunday, May the 27th of Memorial Day weekend. 2K, 2-mile, 5K, walk, run, whatever you like. You get a chance to go out through the back portion of the park where no one hardly ever goes, and get to go through the Pewitt property, thanks to Lisa Hutton and her sister for giving us permission to do that, and come down and wind up at Natural High where the Kiwanis is having their craft fair at that time. So and it starts at 8 o'clock at the park. Information is available on our Facebook page and our website page. So, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Ken Deal speaking about the Main Street Road project, showing indentations. There's a question here of what is being done to correct their mistakes, so I wanted to just take a second to note that as part of citizens' input, per government code, we're unable to take action or express approval or disapproval of any public input. So go right ahead. Thanks, Kim.
Okay, I just wanted to, point out that there's indentations showing up and down the roadway, along with indentations next to almost all the stop signs from the vehicles when they stop. And I was told that the indentations were due to the company using the wrong mix when they put down the road. And it was a really big project. And it just seems like if it wasn't done properly, I would hope that somebody would take steps to correct it if it was indeed their mistake for not using the proper mix for the project.
Thank you. I know that that is a rumor that is out there. My understanding, the last time we received an update from Doug, is that they used the mix that was approved by the state. And the state is now experiencing issues up and down the state where the mix isn't holding up to weather conditions. But we could certainly see if Doug has any further updates.
Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you. Doug, do you have any further updates?
I don't have any further updates other than to clarify what you said is correct. There is an issue with what they call the mix design, and that is basically the formula that the app company that makes the asphalt's given. It's approved by Caltrans. And yes, Caltrans is having major issues. We are definitely not the only one having this problem. Caltrans is trying to figure out a remedy to it as far as new mix designs go, but there really isn't much we can do about the mix that's already down on the ground, unfortunately. But it was not the contractor. I mean, the contractor didn't bring us, some bad material. They brought material that was state approved, and that's what we used, and unfortunately there was an issue with the state's spec.
Thank you. Our next 4 citizens inputs are from the owners and operators of Disney Water Sports. You have the option of all coming up at the same time, or we could just go one at a time. Great, we have Connor Disney, and this is regarding boat ramps.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Connor Disney, and I wish to share with you guys my growing concerns with the library park and the closure of our public boat ramps. As some of you may know, I'm one of the co-owners of Disney's Boat Rentals, a local business that has been here for the last 35 years. Our business helps bring tourists from the Bay Area and beyond. In fact, we have welcomed visitors from out of state and out of the country. Our concerns are rooted in the fact that many of the public facilities at Library Park have been closed for more than a year. In total, there are 8 spots for vehicles to launch boats in Lakeport. There is, or were, 3 spots at 1st Street, 3 spots at 3rd Street, and 2 spots at 5th Street. With the closures to our public boat ramps, 4 of the 8 launching spots have been closed down with no significant damage to be seen. The difficulty with the boat ramp closures are amplified when special events come to town. Just last year, the City of Lakeport allowed a special private event to have full and exclusive access to the only public launching facilities in Library Park. The event was also able to fence off the entire public facilities and not allow any access to private citizens, bass fishermen, or businesses.
Connor, if
Yes.
I could just interrupt you for a moment. The boat races is actually on the agenda,
Okay.
so if you could focus on the parts of your speech that are cited.
Okay, yeah. Just basically, I want, it seems like the boat ramp should be open for the public to use all days of the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey, would you like to come next?
Sure.
Thanks. And this is about boat ramps.
This is about boat ramps. Hello, City Council. My name is Corey Disney. My concerns are with the closing of the boat ramps. There's been a 50% reduction in the available boat launching facilities in a town that is centered on having lake access. We want to be part of the solution, and we have personally offered to hire a licensed engineer to inspect and repair the 1st Street boat ramp, and the City of Lakeport declined that offer. This was over a year ago, shortly after the ramp was closed. We have been operating in Lakeport for 35 years. In all of those years, we have seen no change in the condition or the structural integrity of the ramp. It is my opinion that the 1st Street boat ramp was included with the other damages from the high waters of 2017, but has no new damage and no reason to be closed. I have spent many summers at the 1st Street boat ramp and have seen no change since the flood of 2017. In addition, we have been trying to learn more about the reasons behind the closure. As the ramp continues to be barricaded and closed to the public with no apparent reason, a business that has been here for 35 years has its reputation on the line and is incurring more expenses than ever. There have been a growing number of closed businesses in Lakeport lately, and we don't want to face a similar fate. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlotte, would you like? Thanks.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Charlotte Disney. I'm here to talk about the effect the boat ramp closures have on our business. In previous summers, we were able to launch a boat at 1st Street and send a customer out from the same spot, making our business fast and efficient. This speed and efficiency has become a defining feature of our company, and it is an aspect our customers have come to rely on and expect with every rental. The recent boat ramp closures have a negative impact on our customers and our business. We've heard multiple concerns from visitors about long delays at the boat ramps. This is affecting our tourists' experience and enjoyment of their visit to Lakeport. There have been instances where customers are experiencing longer than usual wait times due to a factor that we have no control over, boat ramp closures. In an attempt to cope with the detriment these closures have caused, we've been forced to take on more staff than needed in a typical season, which in turn adds more expenses to our small local business. When the First Street boat ramp was open, as it should be today, the public was able to use all 3 ramps to launch a boat. Now with limited ramps open, there are much longer wait times. Again, this effect is amplified with special events that have permission to close off the other boat ramps. We are definitely in favor of special events, but last year we feel that it negatively impacted tourism when boat ramps were closed. We just think that boat ramps need to be open for businesses and open to the public.
Thank you. And finally, Roy Disney?
Nothing at this time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there any member of city staff who would like to give us a FEMA repair update? I know I didn't ask you ahead of time.
Well, I see you're looking at me, so I guess I'm elected, right?
Yes.
We are in the FEMA process, and most unfortunately, I understand all local citizens' pain. It pains staff just as well at the, should I say, slow speed of dealing with federal entities and all those things that are required to do that. Right now, we are getting close with final negotiations with the insurance company, which I think is going to help give us a better understanding of where we're at as far as what our stance is going to be in dealing with FEMA. We have never, I mean, we have been dealing with FEMA on a daily basis since the end of the floods. We have bought memory sticks by the case now. So there is a constant flow of information leaving the city. We've done everything that we can humanly possibly do to expedite getting a timely response from FEMA on authorization on our projects. And at this point in time, the ball is in FEMA's court. We've given them everything they've requested, but we still haven't got our letters of authorization to proceed. So what that means is, and until you have that letter, if you choose to spend money, then the odds are that it will not be reimbursable because you did not have the authorization to proceed with the project. Now, as being the steward for the City of Lakeport's funds, I found that unacceptable to put us at that risk. And, I've expressed that with council, we've gone over that. And so, we're happy to work within the process that's laid out by FEMA. We're really hoping that that is going to be coming to some kind of conclusion here soon. We're slowly starting to get some small projects, getting authorization for those. But as far as our big projects like the ramps and the wall and the sidewalk out behind the wall, we have not got the letters saying that those have been funded. And
Doug, can you touch on what the damage to that ramp is?
The insurance adjusters that brought their own engineer out and had their own engineers look at it determined that the ramp is damaged. Their estimate is, in what they're offering as a settlement that we're still negotiating on, is $288,000 is what they're estimating the damage to the First Street boat ramp is. I spoke to our city engineer just here within the last day or two and asked him if he could give us some kind of a letter that says that we could use that. His response was, I am not going to put my stamp on something that I feel is damaged and the insurance engineers feel is damaged. And he goes, and you're putting the city at a great liability that if something should happen and we knew or felt that it was damaged, then, we're at a very I can't think of the word I want to use, precarious position as far as our liability. And I think David could probably speak more to what our liability risk would be, opening something that we have evidence is damaged. And so that's really where I stand. And I truly understand where the Disneys are coming from. I mean, we've tried to make every possible accommodation for them that we possibly could without putting the city in a liability jeopardy. And so I've always been willing to work with the Disneys and do whatever we can do to help facilitate their business through this difficult time. And we do understand it's a difficult time. And I really don't know what else to tell you.
Well, could they line their boats up out there on the docks and so that they're not pulling them in and out and to keep their service quicker? There's room out there, right?
They utilize our docks on
offer that.
the
Okay.
south end, but they also have their own docks that they put in off the corner of T&T's in the past years.
Oh, right.
And they also utilize those. And so we have assisted in that manner. We rearranged all of the fencing to allow easier access down to the beach and the beach area, and opened it back up to the picnic tables and all of that on the very south end next to First Street for them to be able to use that. We did work out an arrangement with them to be able to launch their lightweight craft there, meaning jet skis. They were launching jet skis from there last year. We felt that the weight of the jet ski was not of a sufficient weight that gave us undue concern. I mean, there was a concern, but we felt that, that was a risk that we could live with, is doing lightweights. We just did not feel comfortable in saying that you can launch patio boats and large ski boats on that ramp. And so that's been the only thing that's been excluded from use of that ramp, is their large ski boats and the patio boats.
How would they access that ramp though with those big barriers?
They're movable. We took the water out of them so that they could pull them to the side to get their jet skis in and out. And but we can't let, it puts us in a rather precarious position because we can't let the general public use that ramp.
If there was some sort of...
I just would like to caution, this is just a general comment
Right, okay.
time, and so normally kind of the rule of thumb is 3 questions, so I think
Right.
these have gone beyond that. And I think this is obviously an important topic that people want to discuss and are concerned about, and it may be something worth putting on a future agenda if they'd like to do that.
I agree.
And definitely tonight, I'd like to make some time, reserve some time with staff and the Disneys immediately, which I apologize. I think about 2 weeks ago they called me, and then Doug and I, our schedules were really, we weren't connecting. And so I do owe them a meeting to talk about the actual reports and what the damage that the reports showed that they found and stuff. So I do apologize. I meant to get back to you sooner on that. And so hopefully this evening we can come up with a time later, that we can meet and talk as staff with them too.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and move on with the agenda. Thank you. Thank you, David. Was there any further citizens input? Papers? Nope. Okay, we're going to move on. The presentation has been withdrawn from the agenda, so we'll move on to presentation from Dan Peterson from Sutter Lake Healthcare, giving us a presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Should I speak into the microphone? Does it matter?
We'd like to hear you.
The microphone.
Thank you.
I'd love to, for the presentation, leave for the public as well. So thank you for your time. My name is Dan Peterson, Chief Administrative Officer of Sutter Lakeside Hospital. I started working here at the beginning of 2017, so it's coming up on a year and a half now. Just by way of introduction, that's me and my family. We all moved up here to Lakeport. We live up by the fairgrounds now, as of a year ago. But what I really want to talk to you about is our hospital, some of the great things we're doing, some of the great things we've accomplished, particularly over the last few years. I'm very proud of the care that we deliver, and I'd like to show you a little bit more about that. This is a graph of the general acute care hospitals within Sutter Health. So Sutter Health is an organization that I've worked at a lot of different healthcare organizations, for-profit, non-profit, academic, a lot of different places that really has very high quality standards overall. We track quality patient outcome metrics, which are very standard industry metrics, things like risk-adjusted mortality rates and readmission rates. You know, if a patient is sent home, do they have to return for the same issue that they were there for initially, things like that, that are industry standard rates. We benchmark ourselves against other companies. We shoot for the 90th percentile and above in all of our quality metrics, which is really exceptional. I haven't seen that at other healthcare organizations, meaning better than 90% of other facilities, other hospitals in the country. So green on our slide means we achieve 90th percentile and above, and as you can see, Sutter Health as a whole routinely achieves that in the majority of their metrics. We, for the last year or so, on and off, have been really the top hospital, always in the top 3 within all of Sutter Health. So it's something that I don't think a lot of people in the community realize, that we actually have some of the best care in Sutter Health, a company that delivers some of the best care in the country, right here in the middle of Lakeport. And again, these are standard metrics that are widely used throughout the industry. So we've done very well on our quality. In recent years, our patient outcomes have been very good. It's not just me saying it. We recently achieved our first 4-star rating on the Medicare website. 5 stars so there are no critical access hospitals in California which achieved 5 stars. There are 35 critical access hospitals. Only 6 of them even achieved 4 stars. We're one of those 6. Because to achieve 5 stars, you have to offer certain services that we just are out of the scope of what we can offer. I don't know if it would be possible. It would certainly be very difficult. But we're very proud of our 4-star rating. This is, Medicare looks at old data, so this is really based on kind of last year and the year before, the culmination of those numbers. Our quality has continued to improve since then, so we fully expect to retain this rating and continue to do really well in the care that we deliver. We've been working really hard on access for patients. One of the things we measure is the amount of time it takes from when you walk in the doors in the emergency department. If you have to be admitted as an inpatient, how long does it take from when you walk in the door until you reach your inpatient bed? Because that's really, you know, if you need the inpatient care, your inpatient bed is the appropriate place to be taking care of you, and we want to get you to that bed as quickly as we can. It's also just a big patient satisfier. And so as you can see, over the last 3 years, we've significantly dropped that time. We're now doing quite well ahead of our industry benchmarks in terms of the timeliness of the care we deliver. Otherwise, for growth, we do have two primary specialty care clinics. Over the last few years, those have grown tremendously. A lot of people ask, what are we doing to bring more doctors to the county and bring more providers to the county? Well, we've, over the last 2 years, have really almost tripled the number of patients that we serve in our clinics. So we're providing outpatient access as well. It continues to be a challenge. We do want to offer a significant amount more, but we are growing as quickly as we can. In terms of service, I'm particularly proud of this one. So over the past few years, we've put a big emphasis on the service that we provide. These are the patient surveys that are mailed out to our patients. This is a Medicare program, actually, so it's not. It's really not us. Everything about the survey is governed by Medicare, including what questions are on it, how it's administered, how it's mailed out to patients, things like that. We've increased over the last 2 years, as you can see, from 65% overall rating. We had a 12-point increase last year in our overall rating of care at the hospital, and another 3 points so far this year. So we're very proud of the work that we're doing to provide just better care and compassion and friendliness and service to the patients that walk in our doors, as evidenced by their survey responses. This puts us, the black line there is 50th percentile, so for the last year and a half we've been well above average, and we're really shooting for the 75th percentile, which would really be fantastic. And we think we'll get there this year. So we're doing well in service. This is, again, the Medicare website, Hospital Compare website. They run that. This is not just me saying it, it's our independent auditors as well, who've given us 4 stars for service as well. So I think our team at the hospital have a lot to be proud of. We have several recent awards that we've won. Again, the 4-star ratings in quality and patient experience. We were also recently awarded by Sutter Health as the top hospital in all of Sutter Health for quality outcomes and the top hospital for service for 2017. We're super proud of that. To have won two of those awards in 1 year is somewhat unheard of within Sutter. So I feel like we have a lot to be proud of here in the county, and I'm on a mission to make sure everyone hears about it and everyone knows about it. We also were recently awarded as a California Honor Roll hospital for primary cesarean section rates. So when a patient comes in to deliver, particularly first-time moms, if you don't have to do a C-section, you don't want to do a C-section, it's better to try and deliver naturally when possible. And we've been able to keep that rate really low, which has helped our good patient outcomes. Other things that are new, we do have it's about 1.5 years old now, a new 64-slice CT scanner. We have a new 3D mammography program. We're offering stereotactic biopsies. These are, we're doing everything we can to provide state-of-the-art care, new technologies, things like that, which we've done really a lot of, even a lot more than I could list there. Otherwise, we have a family medicine clinic relocation. So we do have the 2 primary care clinics, like I mentioned, on our campus of the hospital right now. We're relocating one of them to Creekside Medical Plaza here on the other side of town by Mazet Chevrolet, just down the hill from it, later this year. So we're excited about that. We'll have a really nice, beautiful new facility there. It's not an added facility, it's a replacement facility, but it really will be a nice location and help us serve patients on both sides of town a little bit better. We're remodeling our pharmacy, putting $2 million into putting new hoods in our pharmacy, and we've done some refreshing of our ICU and birth center, putting in new floorings and helping with the aesthetic there. Other new things, we have 24/7 EICU. This is something that's new for us that we started last year. We used to have nighttime EICU. That's where in our ICU, we staff it with physicians who, general hospitalist physicians who have experience with critical care and intensive care and are certainly well qualified to run an EICU. But as backup to them, we have a contract to have electronic ICU support from intensivists down in the Bay Area we have cameras up above the beds that they can camera into the room and zoom in and pull up the patient's vital signs and provide added support and backup for our hospitalists here. We're really proud of that. We expanded it to not just be night times, but to be 24/7 last year. We began offering telepsychiatry. This is not our wheelhouse, so to say. It is not. We're not a behavioral health facility, but we frequently find that we have behavioral health patients in our emergency room, and we cannot get them in a timely manner to the appropriate accepting facilities, inpatient behavioral health facilities. And so, in the meantime, we have to care for them in some fashion. It's not a service we really provide, but we felt like we needed to do something to offer them something while they're in the ER, and so we've signed some contracts for telepsychiatry to again pull up psychiatry support on an in-room monitor there in our ER to help provide some limited services to those patients to make their stay a little better. Let's get the next one, but also the Smart Start Baby Bundle is really cool. I don't think I have time to go into detail on that, but we're on a mission to help reduce the infant mortality rate in Lake County, and I think we'll be very successful in that through a big community partnership that we have with a lot of different community organizations to get safe sleep materials to every baby born in Lake County. So we have a lot of exciting things going on. I'd just say I moved to Lake County 1.5 years ago. It's I've found a lot of beauty in Lake County. It's a beautiful place. But the most beautiful thing I've seen is we have really fantastic healthcare here, really world-class healthcare right here in Lake County. And like I said, my focus is I'm on a mission to make sure people know about it. They'll realize just what a gem we have right here in our backyard. So,
Thank you, Dan.
yeah.
Wilda and I are part of the advisory committee over at the hospital, and we hear about all these great things that are going on at the hospital. So I asked Dan to come share those with the council, so the community be more aware of all all the improvements and all the new programs they have there. So thank you for coming. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having
Great.
me.
Great to
I
see
don't know
you.
if you have time for questions. I don't mean it, but I'm happy if anyone has.
Council might have questions.
Well, one of the questions I have is, with your 4-star rating and stuff from Medicare, and that's absolutely fantastic. Did they just use Medicare patients, or did they use all of your patients?
No, so it's based on, Medicare comes into those audits of our services, they send surveyors out to come look at the facility, and we have to report a whole lot of data to Medicare. Some of the data we report is based on Medicare patients. The majority of it is, do you offer this service here? Do you do this thing? Do you do medication reconciliation in a certain way, and can you prove that you do it that way? And we do that. We treat all patients the same regardless of payer class. So it's really, if we do it for Medicare, we do it for everyone. And so the rating, while it comes from Medicare, is really a rating of everybody, to all of our patients. And we we cite a lot of Medicare statistics because they are, as a hospital, one of our largest sort of governing organizations. Comes and pays a lot of scrutiny to us and knows a lot about the care we provide.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions from council? Anybody in the public here to address this agenda item?
Sorry I had my back to you all the whole time.
Thank you very much, Dan. That was a very good
Thank you,
presentation.
guys.
Good work.
We'll move on to council business. Our next item is from the police chief. Receive an update on speeding, speed surveys, and traffic control measures on 20th Street between Alden Avenue and Hartley Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I get into the report, I just, for the benefit of council members that were not here when the speed survey actually came before the council last in 2016, I wanted to make sure that they were aware of the fact that the speed surveys are done in the city of Lakeport, as they are in any jurisdiction that wishes to do traffic enforcement by electronic device, which would be radar and LiDAR type devices that law enforcement uses to measure speed. And since we do that here, and that's our most effective way of enforcing speed limits, we do get the traffic surveys. They have to be done every 5 years. So the last one was done in sometime in the late summer or fall of 2016. Later that year, an item came before the council to review and accept the recommendations of that survey. There was one particular street, that being 20th Street between Hartley Street and Alden Avenue, that was a particular item of concern with the neighborhood, the public, as well as city staff and council members. And that is that the speed data that was collected and the other factors that were used caused the engineer's recommendation to be that the speed limit on that section of street should be 30 miles an hour from the 25 it had been at for at least the 5 years or more before that. However, in the end, I did recommend that the survey be accepted in that area due to the fact that our hands would have been tied on enforcement if it had not. And in the end, the city council did approve that survey be accepted and the speed limit be 30, but with the recommendation that the police and other city staff did whatever they could to try to mitigate and try to further reduce this prevailing speeds on that street, which were at the time found to be about 36 miles an hour. So after the council's initial acceptance of the survey, I believe that was in late November of 2016, all of your city departments worked together and tried to come up with mitigation ideas. One of those being a striping plan for that section of Hartley Street, 20th Street, with the idea that it would create a narrowing effect and cause traffic to naturally reduce speed. So that was voted on and accepted and done back in the fall of last year. Over all this time, we've tried to do speed enforcement in the area where we could. I did have some issues that caused me not to do as much as I'd like. One primarily being having to retrain officers on the use of radar, which unfortunately is not necessarily a quick process to get them in to the state certified training schools. And then also, as you know, there's many other streets that are concerned, many other duties we have to do. So I don't always have a guy I can set somewhere all day long for one area. But we have tried to continue the enforcement over there. We were there last Friday, I believe. We made numerous stops and wrote 2 citations. I also did borrow a radar trailer from another agency that I now have placed on 20th Street that I'm gonna leave there for a while and then move to the other side to measure the street. One of the things that we wanted you to be well aware of is that over the course of this year and a half, there has been other speed survey data collected by the traffic engineer. Most recently, that being the last 2 or 3 days at the end of March. Unfortunately, what was found at that time is the prevailing speeds had not reduced. In fact, they'd gone up by 1 mile an hour to now at 37 mile an hour prevailing speed. So that's one of the challenges there. Like I said, we haven't given up on the enforcement. We're trying to do as much as we can, but at the same time, I can't necessarily be there every day. And one of the other things that makes that street very difficult is it's a wide street and it has good pavement. And that always leads to faster driving. So that's one of the difficulties. But that's essentially the report. I hope I covered everything, and I'm happy to take questions. But just wanted to get that out to you so you were aware of what was going on over there at this time with the prevailing speeds and the work that we've done.
One question I had, Chief, is when it was at 25, was there signs stating that it was at 25?
Yes.
And do those signs now have been changed to 30?
Yes, I believe that's the case.
Okay.
I haven't
I was going to drive by there.
personally recall
before this.
seeing the signs.
They've been changed.
That was my understanding that they had been, yes.
So basically, when they were 25, people were going 10 miles an hour faster, and now that they're 30, they're only going 7 miles an hour faster. It's like, right?
Well, if you want to look at it that way, yes. The prevailing speed was 36.
Yeah.
Now it's 37, but that's not based on a formal speed survey. That's based on 2 days of data.
Right.
So we have not yet done a formal survey to bring back to council to consider any kind of a change on the speed limit.
And has staff thought of any other new ideas that might slow these people down, or should the neighbors go out and beat on each other's doors and say, slow down, you guys, you live here?
Well, one of the things we did is back when this first came up, we did send letters and hand out letters.
Yeah.
But all the residences, what I've been doing lately is I've done some social media posts, and I've forwarded them on to certain neighbors that had told me that they would assist me with trying to share the information in that area. Unfortunately, I don't have data to know if they've done that or how well they've done, but other formal education is still, not off my list for doing. That's in my plans to continue to try to educate that neighborhood and the public, because a lot of the drivers are from the neighborhood, but there are others that use it. But as far as traffic mitigation measures, I personally don't know of anything else right now that I would recommend as far as a traffic mitigation measure. I thought that narrowing the striping, I really believed that was going to create a reduced speed based on all the data I knew about it.
Well, give our thanks to the person who lent you the radar trailer, because that's a good thing. That's a tool for you to use for a while. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm probably only going to have it 2 or 3 weeks. That jurisdiction does use it. They do need it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't have one right now. We did in the past, but with other priorities, it hasn't been near the top of the list to try to replace.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Chief, when you put these traffic measures, and you and Doug and everybody put this perception that the road is narrow, if you've been living there for 5 or 10 or 15 years, what they're basically saying is now we're going to fool you with these new measures, but you've been driving 36 or 37 miles or 40 miles an hour up and down the street, all of a sudden we're going to change the look of it, but it's still just as wide, it's still just as smooth. So we did everything we could, and obviously they're not being fooled, and the only thing that you're saying is that maybe if you could enforce it a little better, that they would slow it down, but I still got to believe that it's not, those of us that are going to look at, Christmas lights in July going down, that street or something. It's mostly, it seems to be the people that are the residents, because it's not like a main thoroughfare. They're not heading out to like grocery outlet or to
No, there's nowhere else to go.
I think it's
so it's like, we did this, and we did it, and we did it at, I think it was like $17,000 or something, and we ended up right back at square one. And I think it was said at that time that the people that are living there are the ones that are going over the speed limit. So this is one of those things where we did everything we could, Chief, and I think that, I don't think you need to take the hit on this one. This is just one of those things. They're not being fooled because they already live there, and they've been driving it that way for however long they've been there, and they know it's the same way. So it's just an experiment that went south.
Agreed. Unfortunately, the other half of neighbors are the ones that all came out and said, no, please don't raise the speed limit. And we've done everything that we can. But yeah, you guys have done everything that you can. You can't feel bad that you can't babysit all the drivers all day long. It's just wrong.
Well, thank you, but I did, I wanted council to know that, we're not abandoning the area as far as enforcement goes. We're going to continue to do what we can, along with all the other areas where we have traffic concerns. And in fact, one of the biggest complaints that I get is actually the stop sign at 20th and Hartley. And in the last 2 days, I believe we wrote 10 tickets there at 20th and Hartley.
I saw a right one today.
Failing to stop for stop signs. So that's
yeah, me.
Another big issue. I guess that my biggest point is it's proved to be a lot more difficult than I actually thought it would be to accomplish the reduction of the speed in a very short amount of time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I'm glad that it still remains a high priority.
Yes, we're obviously not giving up. It's just wanted you guys to be aware that we do have other areas, so we kind of have to, spread that all around and work all the areas, but we're not giving up on it. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who would like to address this item? And Suzanne, please state your name for the record when you get here. Thank you.
Suzanne Lyons, for the record. I just want to make sure that I understand this, because we went through this on Lakeshore Boulevard actually for years, and it used to be 25 miles an hour there, and then somebody ran over the 25 mile an hour sign and they put up one that said 30. And we were told that the reason that we had to have the higher speed limit was that's how fast people were driving, and you couldn't do what am I trying to say, a radar check if you didn't make the speed what people were driving. But now they seem to understand that we don't do a radar check, so why are we upping the speed limit for them if that's not what we do? Why don't we make the speed limits what they were before, and at least if they're doing 35, then you can ticket them for 10 miles over the limit instead of, well, we don't ticket them because they're only going 6. There is a point at which people are going to be speeding by at 70 miles an hour because that's what they like to do. So I don't understand.
Every 5 years we have to do a speed study. And what the speeds come back, the average speed, that's where we have to set the speed.
No, my understanding is you have to do that if you want to do radar. But if we're not doing radar anyway, then why is that dictating it?
We are doing radar. That's the only method that I'm able to use to enforce speed in the city of Lakeport.
But I thought you said that people didn't know how to do it.
If we didn't do the speed study and then comply with the 85 percentile that's state law, then we would not be able to use radar to issue tickets further. We'd kind of be like out of compliance.
The chief does use radar, he just had a lot of new officers, and
Oh,
he's
okay.
getting them through the radar training, and so we will have a lot more officers that are radar trained, but we do have some, we just want more.
Yeah,
Have more access.
there was a time where we lost a lot of our radar. Certified guys, maybe that's what you're
Okay.
asking about.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. We don't have any action, do we?
No, it's just
Okay.
informational.
Thank you again for that update.
You're welcome. Thank you for your work out there. Thank you.
Our next item tonight is with Clear Lake Motorsports Enterprises, authorize the Lakeport Sprint Boat Grand Prix event with council recommendations.
Madam Mayor, I would ask that I be recused because I have some financial outstanding invoices that were incurred last year, and so I don't think it's appropriate that I be involved in any of the conversations today.
Thank you.
I'll try to remember to come get you.
Sure you will.
Is staff starting this presentation, or should we just ask Jack to come up? I think, Ron.
You have to, it's up to you. everyone.
That's up to you, Mayor. I've got a report ready to go.
Thank you, go ahead.
Okay. So, Mayor and Council, what's before you tonight is the Clear Lake Motorsports organization approached the city sometime late last month with a request to again hold the Lakeport Sprint Boat races in our city on June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2018. Their request again includes a proposal to fence off Library Park and all the associated city parking lots from the north edge of the 5th Street parking lot through and including the ramp, traveling south all the way to the center promenade in the middle of Library Park, and then west out to basically the sidewalk at Park Street, and then across Park Street, across 3rd Street near the Park Place restaurant. So basically, the date of June 1st, they would close the area if this were to be approved at 6 in the morning for setup, but the events would actually take place on the 2nd and the 3rd. They've expanded the request this year to include a 3-hour block of time to close Main Street between 1st and 3rd Street, and that would be for a display of boats that are going to be involved in the race. So if that were to be approved, they'd take the boats up into that location just for those 3 hours for the public to walk around and view and come outside the restaurants or the bars that are in that area. So I have worked up, based on this request to the city, what it would cost for your police and public works to respond to, manage, and work that event. And so for both of our departments, we'd be looking at about $7,840 for 2018 to provide the service that would be necessary for all the closures and to provide security. The other highlight is I would like council to be aware that we have not been paid for last year for our services for the 2017 Sprint Boat Race. So I want council to have that information when they're considering this event, and also what their billing and payment requests would be for 2018 should they approve the event. Then I've got some restrictions in the report where I would need the promoter to meet with and get a certified medical response plan and with the fire department as well. And then also, since we don't have any information that this has been approved by the county, that the promoter will need independent approval from the sheriff, the water resources director, and the board of supervisors if necessary to get the whole event approved. And then, of course, if, depending on what council decides, there may need to be changes in the draft agreement which you had in your package. So that was presented to you as a draft, as much as we could get it ready prior to having approval. So those are essentially the highlights of what the request is, and I would be available for questions along with Doug Ryder should any come up for his department.
Thank you. Council have any questions? Or, oh,
No.
would you like to give your presentation, please? And state your name for the record.
Thank you for the opportunity to respond and deal with the application that we've made. I think some background would be useful. When we started this, we had a pretty good plan. We also had a backup plan if we didn't have the attendance that was required. It goes back to the very beginning when I met with you people and we said we wanted to be a for-profit company. And the reason for that was it then gave me a backup plan if we didn't get the attendance we needed to make the event work long-term. And our plan involved getting investors who bought in the company that I'd worked with before, and also some new sponsorships, including a new type of racing or an expanding type of racing that is vintage racing that's going to end up being heavily local involved. And it's going to end up having its own circuit raced around the country, of which they will have this as their flagship event. So over the winter, the decision was simple for us. We needed to be visible. We needed to bridge the financing with the investors and with the new sponsored program. We accomplished that. Everyone that we owed money to got some payment. They didn't get all of the payment. As we stand today, we have enough sponsorship committed this year to operate the event and to pay off all the debts. There will be zero debt from last year's race. Part of our plan involved the fact that as we're using the two racings together, 2 years together, we had to reduce costs significantly, which we did. We actually reduced costs by 40%. We're going to have a better show this year. We lost two of the biggest racing classes last year that didn't come. So from an event viewpoint, I think we're going to have a better event. We've got a slimmed down staff. We reduced by 40%, except for me, of course. But if you reduce by that, you have to have really good people. Well, we got a year of training with people that worked with us that time, and they've done really a super job. Some of our key people, we've got a new general manager that's a local that's doing a great job. So the people who are owed money will be paid back. The money from sponsors this year that will be used for that, we're holding until we get the approvals from all the necessary. That includes the county, it includes the city, and it includes getting the boat sanction deal done. We're on the verge of having all of that done very soon. Maybe depending on how this goes tonight, we'll click off one here. I'm going to meet with the sheriff to go over the requirements they had. The rest of the contract with the county will be virtually the same. I see our contract with you being virtually the same this year too. So that's the short story of what we get to us standing here today. We believe that it's going to work. We believe that you can't judge an event like this on one time. I expected us to be super if we broke even, but we didn't. But we paid back the money that we owe. We have the funds to pay the people that we still owe. Everyone got some of the payments, so the payments now are to catch up with some big ones. Unfortunately, one of the council members is our single biggest person we owe money to. So, but we've worked out a deal with him. I've stayed in touch with him, and I think we're going to work fine. So it's up to you guys to how you want to pursue that. The event for this year, I think, is as good a shape as we can be. reconstructed it.
It's right in front.
It's in the front.
Okay, thanks. It's quite a different, it's exactly the same footprint that we had before. Excuse me, my back, I can show you in a minute. But it's the same footprint that we had before, except we expanded it to behind the library here. The key changes are the hospitality's all moved up to the front. The GA area is even bigger, and it's going to have a beer and wine garden that we expect will be quite a popular thing and make this part of the property work. More boats, more fast boats, and a better show. So I think that we're using the ground in the best way possible now, maximizing hospitality and having a better show for the general division people. So specific questions I'm happy to deal with, or I can expand on anything I've talked about. We're using different media this year. That's why we expected we're going to get a bigger crowd. We were amazed at how small it was last year. We do face some challenges, things that we share with you that went into our decision to do this. Number one, we all felt that the demand for boat racing was going to be even bigger than it was. We concluded after the race that by looking carefully in the 30 years or so that we didn't have boat racing, the whole generation passed through this place. And we need to attract the younger people and get them interested. Now our results from our website this year and the hits we got when we announced we were going forward were 10 times what we got the first year, because people know what we've got here now and what the show is, and it's been very positive responses. So I think lower ticket prices, I think easier access. We've got the people we need to run the race, the volunteers that are on the boats out on the water. We got nothing, frankly, but raves from, I believe, from the Marine Patrol and the performance of our safety people. I think the staff that have been so great to work with from you guys, while they were hard on us to do what was right, they did a good job. They represented you well, and I think we had a very smooth and a very well-run event. And I think the things now, if we can make normal incremental increases, while at the same time reducing costs, we've got every reason to believe we can have a great show here.
Thank you. Council have any questions for Jack?
You said that you have sponsors now, if this all comes to fruition, that you can pay off last year's bills, but what about this year's bills?
Yeah, there's enough there to run the show this year. That's where the 40% decrease comes in on cost to operate this year. Also, the reason we don't have excess of funds is we told all of these new sponsors, we're not going to touch that money until all the approvals are done. So that's why it's all going to come at one time. Remember too, we raised almost $25,000 in new funds for the sponsorship and the investor that took place. So that's how the numbers work out to make this make sense. We reduce the costs all the way around, but we're going to have a better and a bigger, faster boat show.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm wondering, for the closure of North Main, what is it, June 1st, 6 to 9 p.m., has there been any outreach to those business owners?
That is on my list to do right now. I'm getting through the approval process. I will go. I think many of you were there last year, and the response seems to be that it was one of the highlights because it was free, and everybody, the boat owners that we use that race with us are very open and free to work with. So that really, the event is just to announce the kickoff for the show.
You guys did do that last year?
We did it last
Okay.
year. It was very well, really. In fact, actually, we did one block, and the general information we got from everybody around was that it needs to be 2 blocks.
Okay.
So they're really good people. I know that a lot of people that are in this room had their kids, and they put them in the boat and took photos with them. And
Yeah.
it was really a good show. And I don't know of any that with the increase of business along that main street, particularly with restaurants and the way it's going, I'm thinking that we'll have nothing but positive. And I will talk with each one of them. I have to put up no parking signs too, so. I'll be right there.
That's what you did last.
Last year, if I remember correctly, it was a kind of a quickie closure, but the restaurants remained full, and actually it was kind of a fun attraction for them.
Fun night,
They ended up, after they were done, coming and hanging out with the racers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack.
Well,
We're
is
gonna
that
open it
it?
up to the public, yes.
Can I answer any more? Thank you.
Don't go too far.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
What?
Don't go too far. We'll probably call you back.
I would have done that a long time ago if I was gonna do that.
Are there any members of the public who'd care to address this event?
Suzanne Lyons again. I was going to complain because nothing had come to the Parks and Rec Commission about this. And I thought it was because we're 5 months in and we've had one meeting. But it's not. Apparently this is a new thing, right? It just came up this last month.
This is the first time we've
Yeah, I mean,
considered this.
yeah, so it wouldn't have come to us anyway. But I did have a question. Does the promoter pay anything for the use of the park? Because the park is closed off for everybody else, right?
No,
A portion of it is.
there has not been a cost for the park. There's been cost for staffing
Right.
purposes, but not the
Right.
park itself.
And another question I had is, I guess it's got alcohol sales, so who's doing the alcohol sales, do we know?
One of the clubs.
The promoter is not able to do that, so if they're able to get a private nonprofit club, they can get an alcohol license for that event.
Oh, okay,
So
so that hasn't been,
The Clear Lake Motorsports will not be able to get an alcohol license. It has to be a nonprofit
Nonprofit, right.
organization, and that's something that they'll work out with an organization should the event go forward.
we're talking June 1st, right?
Well, they're already in talks with organizations to do the alcohol sales.
Okay. That was a question. And then another one was, the Parks and Rec Commission had discussed, actually, we have tabled a motion that we wanted to bring to you, talking about whether, because there's going to be the Carnegie, there's the gazebo, special events. So maybe when we have our next meeting, we can do something about seeing whether you're interested in having any kind of fee schedule for the use of Library Park. Because this is a big deal. If we're going to have people close the park, we ought to know what it means to us, and it seems to me that we ought to get something out of it.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I can address a couple of those points I'd like to. We have a deal that's in place with 2 service clubs, and they're already working with our beer sponsor, which is distributing. That's all in place. We learned a lot last year. They're gonna do the deal directly with Eagle. Eagle's gonna do a sponsorship with us. That's really the one thing that went very profitable and smoothly last year. So I'm real happy with the deal that we have. They seem happy with it. We were in agreement on how the process would go. So I think, that's fine. I don't see any problem with that at all. In fact, we comply with all the laws at that point. The other thing I wanted to bring up that we didn't really talk about is that on Sunday night, we reopened, and people had both parking as well as access to the ramps by late afternoon on Sunday. Doug, was that the schedule that we discussed the other day?
Yes.
So.
And the requirement in the contract would be that the ramps and a sufficient number of parking spaces near the ramps have to be clear and open to the public by 6 p.m. on Sunday, June 3rd. That's the current language that's in the contract.
And we complied with that last year, and we're happy to do it again this year. So I don't see that as an issue. Okay?
I have one question, and it's probably totally off the wall here. But I've seen your document with the triangle of where the race is going to be run. And I've seen that you're going to be using the 5th and the 3rd Street boat ramp, and the 1st Street ramp is closed. Is there a way to move that triangle more towards First Street so we can use Fifth Street for other people?
The footprint that we work with here, and the number of boats that we have, with each boat, there's usually a camper or a truck that hauls tools and operates with. So virtually from the north end of the parking lot all the way to the bottom, it's filled with racers. We have hospitality at the lakeside on each side, and we have spectators there too. But when this thing closes down for those 48 hours, there is just virtually no room for people to, like, we couldn't get someone down, let them launch their boat. Where would they park? We've got the place absolutely full of. In fact, we're concerned that long term, as the event increases, we're going to have to figure out where to put more boats and what's going to happen. So I don't see how that could work, and us be able to put the show on that we want to do. So. Anything else?
I just say part of the conversation last year about the use of the park was about the economic development value of bringing people down, and the community had all been talking forever about having boat races again. And so it was maybe the first couple of years to see if it gets off the ground, giving them an opportunity to make it work. If it's going on, more than 2 years, and then council could definitely should take a look at whether they want to charge more or how they want to do that. And I believe that was the conversation we had last year.
Yeah,
why we
right.
didn't charge for the park at
Yeah.
this time, on that reason. So I just wanted
That's
to
my recollection too.
bring that up.
That's the thought is after this year, we'd sit down and we need to assess where we are and how it's going.
And council can always adjust the amount of park they're taking too. If you wanted to cut back farther towards the gazebo, these are the recommended space they need, but council definitely has authority to change what they see too. So I just want to show you right.
Jack, could you clarify your reasons for extending it all the way to Carnegie Library this year, as far as the park, the general area?
Yeah, in our debrief on the event, we decided that the park area really wasn't affected last year. It wasn't used very much by people. We developed a plan to put in the beer and wine garden, and there are a number of picnic tables behind the library that we added so that the idea is that people can go use that area instead of being basically walled off and fenced off. And it's the results, we're really interested in the quality of the show that the spectators get and how they can operate. So that's the only reason for that. I think that we must utilize that area. And I'd suggest one thing I'd like you to consider, and that is that it's very easy to determine after you see a first-time event. If you look at all the mistakes I made and that other people made, and yet we still came away with people essentially, whether it was the media, the spectators, the racers, they all left and said, boy, it was a great show, it was smooth. And I'm proud of our people, what we did and how that worked that way. But we have to adapt to the market. That's why our ticket prices are going to be cheaper this year. We're doing a program where veterans or active service personnel are going to have 50% or no charge, depending on the circumstance. So we're reaching out. We last year included in our sponsorship the Lake County Fairgrounds, which had a full sign package as well as a suite and at our expense. And they promoted ticket sales for the fair. It was coming up in only 2 or 3 months. We did similar things with the wine association, the winery association. They were having the Red, White, and Blues coming up in July after our event. So we supplied them at no charge to support the people and the other activities in the area. So we're going to do more of that. There's going to be, we just met with the fairgrounds again. We're going to expand that relationship. It's been good. I think we're trying to do everything we can. Other events that are coming after the summer, we promoted them at our event in the PA system. And those are some of the things that I think we need. Going back to my statement, it's very easy to reach conclusions after a first event. and say, well, that's life now, it's the way it is from now on. It's not necessarily true. The one problem we had last year is we chose the media to promote the race that really turned out to not be effective for us, and it was what with radio trying to reach the younger audience. This year we're switching to print and to social media primarily to get the story out there where we're going.
And then the ones that most affected, we talked about the docks earlier, is the Disney's. We did provide dock space at Skylark, but I'm not sure exactly how that worked for them, so I think they're definitely ones that were most affected with the closures of the ramps too and stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that where the public would launch down there?
The public would launch down there, and I believe that's what Disney's had to launch too. Yeah, so we tried to add more we added some of our own docks to Skylark, but I guess, we need to hear from them how that affected them.
One thing that I would add with regard to that too, and that's, I understand as a business person, their need for that First Street ramp to be open. We were talking outside about it, and it's just outside of our footprint. It's not involving us, but when we heard that they were having to launch it there and come down to load at First Street ramp with their own docks, we offered them the chance, instead of going around the racetrack in the morning before we had boats out there racing when it wouldn't be, we opened it to them to come straight down right between the racetrack and the shoreline. So I don't know if it helped them. We volunteered that. I think their problem is that it's still that long drive and a long way to go, and I understand, but I just want you to understand we try to make an effort to make it better for them.
Okay.
So what you're saying is, before your races start, you're going to allow people to take their boats down there and maybe dock them over there by T&Ts, and then shut it off while the racing hours are?
Well, for Disney.
For Disney, that's what I
For
mean.
Disney, yeah. We'll offer the same thing we did last year. I don't think it's a perfect answer, but it's not really, all we can do is I can let you know that we're trying to cooperate to make it the best that we can for them. If they had to go all the way out around the race course, which is going to be slightly bigger this year anyway, it would be a much longer trip. I don't think we're the answer to the problem, but I think we're trying to do something to help it out.
Thank you.
Okay?
Oh, wait, Jack, before you go, I have one more question. In the promenade dock, the public ones right in front of Library Park that we usually have out, were the public accessing those docks they did last year, didn't they? And would they have that same public access, or is that something?
Those part of our requirement was that they remain open. We had personnel there trying to monitor it because people would want to go out there and stand out on the dock and watch the races.
Right.
They were specifically open for people who came by boat to the event, wanted to come over and take a look at it and see it. Some of them stayed and watched out on the water too, but our only role in that was we tried to make sure people weren't just going out there and standing watching the race. I think, Doug, is that right?
Yeah. There were two issues with that. One was sheriff's office. If you notice, the end of the racetrack is right there. It ends about the center promenade. The sheriff's office had great concern about public being basically in the racetrack area. The other issue we had that we had to address immediately was there were so many people on it that the floats were actually sinking. The docks were sinking.
So has that been removed from the proposal for this year? Because I
So-
see that the race course is actually now right above it, or right next to it.
So it will be open for people coming in prior to race time that want to dock there, leave their boats and come in on the center promenade. The center promenade itself, going out to the T, will be open, but general public standing on the actual docks themselves will not be allowed.
How about boat parking for the end of the T that goes towards the old T&Ts?
Disney's has last year put all of their boats in that area, and that was open for the Disney's to use that area.
Is that what we're expecting would happen
Yes.
again this year?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Okay, thanks.
Would any of the Disneys care to address some of the details? Thanks, Roy.
Hello, my name's Roy Disney, and we're 110% in bringing events to the community. The boat events, the race events, the bike races, the car shows, they're all terrific. But we do feel that with First Street being closed currently, that the community should be able to enjoy our boat ramps at Library Park. I'm referring to the members of the community, the Bass community, the Bass guides, our visitors that come from out of the area. They're used to coming to enjoy Library Park. Our use as well. So if there's a way that we can commingle these wonderful, amazing events and have use for all, that's where I think we have the challenge to accomplish. And we'd love to find a solution to do that. Ideally, it'd be great not to close both boat ramps and to have Fifth Street open, close one. Have Fifth open for some use. That's what we think would be ideal. And we also like seeing the docks open for visitors to come from other sides of the lake to come and enjoy Lakeport downtown. So the docks being available, or a portion of the docks, for a visitor that may be coming from Soda Bay or Lucerne or anywhere around the lake. We want those boaters that have nothing to do with us, families that are out on the lake that weekend that want to come and enjoy the boutiques, the restaurants, and so on. We want to have access for all of them. And commingling that, we think, would be important. How can we do that? That's what we're here for. I think Jack and his efforts in their boat event is terrific. I do think that the park is a vital part of our community, and we need to commingle access for all. That's what we'd like to see accomplished.
Did you have any input regarding last year's experience with the access both to that right side of the T as well as the docking available over at Skylark? How that worked out for you?
Well, it's difficult. Honestly, it was an added expense to what we do. Can we do it again? Of course. It takes additional staffing, overtime, to make the distance from where we are to the round trip to Clear Lake Avenue of approximately 1.6 miles round trip with every vessel. So can we do it? Sure, we can sort through it. You know, if it's needed, I think if we can access Fifth Street for a bit of it, and I look forward to working with Jack in a way to do that if it's possible. It doesn't seem impossible, but that would be ideal if we can do that. You know, we want to see our visitors have a good experience, one that it can be done in a timely manner, one that does not create a lot of additional challenges on our part. That's what we'd like to see. And the docks, again, as I said, if we can have a portion of the docks open so visitors can come from anywhere on the lake and enjoy Lakeport and downtown, that's important. It's important for us to have that accessibility. And do we have that ability right now with the event?
Like I said, I think in the morning, yeah, you can come. I think it's more safety. You can't come in and out when the races are going on.
But they can still come in.
But they can still come in the morning only, or?
No, the docks that are down that Doug and I were discussing a minute ago, that long dock there that's on the south end of the course, that's open all the time. But when the races are actually going on, the Marine Patrol, which is in charge of safety on the water, they said that the boats can't be coming in when you got race boats going around and around. Frankly, there's not enough room. This is a small footprint that we use.
We may want to get you up on the microphone if
Okay.
your interested in it. Extend. I don't want to miss it.
What we observed last year was the Lakeport docks for whatever the reasons were not acceptable to visitors to come see Lakeport, from what we observed. Safety is important, I understand that. Do we want to limit the accessibility for visitors to come? I think that's, something for everyone to decide. Again, we're 100% behind bringing events to the area. How we can commingle those, that's where the challenges begin. I think it's very doable. Thank you.
I don't think we made it clear enough that the large docks behind Library Park are open all the time. There's certain periods where boats coming from across the lake are not allowed in there when the boats are actually racing. I can also tell you that we had a number of volunteers that set up the ring perimeter. There were over twice as many boats that came from other areas that were out there watching the race, enjoying it, and then coming on board and eating, going into town and doing what they wanted to do. I did see a number of boats that came and tied up during the 2 race days, came into town, had lunch, and then left and took off, as long as the race boats weren't going. Now, we're talking about something here. We're going to have 2 more big classes this year. Boats out on the water running in excess of 140 miles an hour are the biggest ones. We spend a lot of time talking about safety, and it's something that the sheriff and the Marine Patrol must considered at the very highest and most important level. We had one incident last year, and before the sheriff's department could even get there, the safety team had the guy out of the water coming in, and our great staff of the paramedics here in the city had the guy taken care of, and it worked well. But when you got boats going that fast, this footprint we have is so small. I don't know how you could bring down launch boats, maybe at 6 in the morning, but where would they park the trailers that they're leaving with? We just have a full print. I believe that if this thing is going to work, and we want to do a big event like this in town, we're doing the best we can with that space that we have. And it's, I'm willing to work. I in fact reached out to Disney myself last year before I even saw anyone with them. And I came by and they suggested the use of the morning route shorter to the First Street Pier. So that's what we did from our side.
Jack, where was the boundary last year? It didn't go all the way up to the gazebo even, did it?
Yes, it did include the gazebo, but the only thing we've added is the space that was really dead space directly behind the Carnegie Library, where there are permanent seats for
all the picnic tables
and things like that. And we're trying to create a better environment for people to use that area, which is why the beer and wine garden is going to be down there too. And there will be vendors that are selling food in that area. If that is an important thing to you guys, it's only a few seats. It was just our ability, our effort to try to improve the experience of the people who buy tickets.
Well, it's such a tricky thing to close the park and to close the ramps. And so we keep inching over and taking what the public maybe would come in and use. I think that might be pushing our luck.
Okay. That's something I think would make a better experience. I think it would be, it's actually for the spectators. I'm not going to make any more money or sell any more tickets, I don't think, from that. But the people who are there watching will have a better view. They can sit down and have a lunch and a beer and enjoy the show. But that's, as I said, when I met with Doug and Brad and we discussed that, I believe it would make a better event in Lakeport. I think it would be much improved from the spectator view, and they'd start to use that area down by the park. We specifically stayed away from the remainder of the park from that fenced area behind Carnegie. So the public restrooms are there, the playgrounds that the kids use. None of that is affected. In fact, there were plenty of people who used them last year.
And picnic tables are used quite a bit by families on the weekend. That was the only thing there, but
But we still have that rolling lawn though, right? That's still open. The lawn that's in front of the playgrounds.
Right,
That's
you're
still
you're
open.
talking right on the other side of the picnic tables is open.
Oh, it's all open. The fence runs just to the edge of the Carnegie Library, straight out, intersects, but there leaves an opening. We had quite a number of boats who came in last year, so saying that they weren't used just isn't true. Because the directions from the sheriff's department, you could stay out there in your boat, but if you tied it up and came inside, you couldn't stand out on the dock and view the racing. It was just viewed as it wasn't safe. We came away with a great recognition that the safety plan and the racing worked. I don't think 2 ramps for 2 days for an event like this, we're hoping something that's going to create a long-term event and a big one here. I would just say one other thing too, and then I'll say it's enough. We have a problem attracting as many out-of-state or out-of-county visitors as we like because we don't have hotel rooms. We try to tie ticket sales to hotel rooms if you're coming from Marin County or you're coming from Sonoma County. Other than that, it's just a day trip, and we don't have the answer to that. We've tried everything. We've been putting ticket buyers in touch with Airbnb, everything we can do to try to help make the experience good for them. So I'd like to share that with you. If you guys can build a couple of hotels, it would be really
We're working on it.
Okay.
Love that too.
Hey, Jack, one last thing before, go ahead. During the day, just the issue of boats coming in and being able to go out during, aside from the racing periods, are you talking about time and periods throughout the day where they can come and go, like during intermissions of racing? Or is it they could come in at 8 and they can't leave till whenever?
As long as the boats aren't actually racing around the track, it's the call. I talked about the boat volunteers that we have where they set up the perimeter ring for security and safety out there. The people in the boats at the end of that, when the racers are going around and around, the Marine Patrol says you can't come in and out if you're in the proximity of the boats. But any other time you can come in and out. In fact, at one point we had, there wasn't room for more boats to be tied out there, to tell you the truth. So I don't think that saying that wasn't used is true at all. It definitely was used and we made it available every
So
day.
there are periodic times during the day where boats could have access in and out.
Yeah, in fact, there were periodic times where they couldn't go in and out because the boats were racing. All the rest of the time, as long as the Marine Patrol would let them come in from that side, you could easily come in and out. I had a lot of people who came and came in, looked it over, went out, sat around the perimeter in their boats, and it was a county-wide event based on what they saw and what they did. You had a question?
Yes. Now I'm not a big boating guy. I'm a novice in the idea. Once these race boats are in the water and getting ready, do they pretty much stay there for the day or for hours at a time, or is it they're in for 30 minutes and then have to get back out?
Now, the way it works is that, first of all, the footprint's so small that all the boats and the attendant equipment and mechanics and people that work on them and the trailer and the truck that delivers them to the ramp, it's jammed inside there. But the racing times occur in sort of 1 hour blocks. And then when that's over, but it's a constant flow of boats to and from to get ready to go out with the next group for 30 minutes or an hour. The race director puts them in line, they're on the ramps ready to go, so they get out, they're in the water when the other groups comes in. So it's a well-timed thing. And I think the guys that we used last year did a great job of that. The show flowed well, and we had nothing but positive response. I don't see how we could effectively, because the pace is virtually, although one thing we're doing this year is we're reducing the total time of racing. A lot of input was that we had too much time, but once we start on Saturday morning till the end of the day, we're full of boats and people are welcome to come from everywhere. I thought the docks that were open were full last year. Did I answer your question, Tim?
Yeah.
Mayor, can I comment one thing before Jack leaves? Certainly. Because I heard it mentioned that we'd have 2 days of ramp closures, but it's my understanding, based on the setup, that we would be completely closed from Friday morning at 6 until Sunday at 6 p.m., so we're looking at 60 hours basically of closures. Is that?
That's correct.
That's true, no one would be able to launch after
Yeah.
6 a.m. Friday.
Right. And
At either 3rd or 5th Street.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And because when we load in on Friday, we've got fencing, we've got vendors, we've got, and all the race teams arriving on Friday and setting up their operation too. So it's actually a fairly condensed, if we're gonna have an event like this, it's well condensed, and it's gonna get tighter run this year. We'll get it open Sunday as early as we can, and there'll be parking available too.
Okay, but what you just said, does that still allow Disney, say, to come in early in the morning on Saturday and drop boats off into the water? Or is there going to be no access after 6 o'clock in the morning?
And I don't see how that can work with the area stuffed full of boats and racers, and the racers will actually start using the ramp early when they go out to warm up their boats, or if they've had to work on them overnight, they'll be using the ramp before the show starts for sure.
So does that mean no access for Disney or early access for Disney?
I don't see how that can work, because if they're gonna be bringing in boats that their own trailers, they're gonna dump them, and then are they just gonna pull right out? I mean, I'll listen to whatever we want. I don't see a good way of that working personally.
Because I was under the impression that they could bring them in early in the morning, launch their boats, go tie them off to their dock, take their trailer back to their yard, and then their boats would be tied to their docks in the morning. But now I'm hearing they can't do that.
I never said that was a good idea for them to come in the morning. If they wanted to come down to like 5 or 6 and use the 5th Street ramp, I think that would be fine. And we'll work with them to see how we can make that work, but we're gonna have an area full of race boats and
I
trailers.
understand that. The parking lot's gonna be full of activity.
Yeah. But the 5th Street ramp, the one thing it has is that it has the emergency access lane to it, which is where the ambulance and any issues that we have to deal with like that, and where the police can come into that area. If they wanted to start, as long as it's earlier morning, we could look at that and see if it helps them get it done.
Okay.
So the fire access means that we need to have that clearing, correct? It's not solid walls of boats.
Yeah, that lane is open all the time that we're here, even at night when the racers stay inside the facility. That area stays open all the time.
On the site plan, it doesn't show a gate.
It doesn't show what?
It shows a gate from 5th Street into the pit area,
Uh-huh.
but not a gate from the pit area to the 5th Street ramp. Is that accurate? Is there a way to get more?
That is accurate, because that's such a crucial part, getting boats in and out. During the day, we have someone there full-time, and at night, it's closed off completely. If we were to give them access in the morning, we just have to have a window that we would put on our people who are there controlling it. There's not a gate that's ever open and closed on the ramp.
Okay. Any more questions?
So when would you suspect that the bulk of your racers would be launching their boats in the morning? I mean, I know you gave the example of people that do maintenance overnight or that do some kind of work, and they would need to launch early to, but the bulk of your racers, when are they gonna get in the water?
They're gonna, in the morning, what happens is the race director and the safety people, they have to be out in the water when there's any kind of racing going on. But in the morning, there's a time where the racers can go to the ramps, put their boat in the water and test it, even if it's a lap or it's not a race of any kind. But they'll start that when I turn over the facility. The way the system works is that I'm in charge of the facility all over. I make the deal with the county and with the city, but the race director is the man that calls when it can be open and when it can't. What I'll have to do if we're gonna give them access is negotiate a window in the morning where he'll have to say to the racers, you're not gonna have access to the ramps. That's contrary to what they usually have wherever they're racing, but we'll see if I can get that done with the race director. So I'm thinking at least by, if they came in from, on the 5th Street ramp, and, I don't know, from 6 to 8 or 5 to 7, something like that, we can get a window where they can get some boats in and out.
So the bulk of your racers would be launching their boats from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m.?
No, I'm saying that would be available to Disney to use during that window. The racers would start, depending on the circumstances, when the race course is open and the race director says they can use them, they'll go out and do any testing or anything they want to do. The actual racing is going to start this year, I think, at 10. But the boats will be on the water 8 o'clock-ish.
So I'm just wondering, you said you were working with the fairgrounds. And if we're talking about an issue of the 5th Street parking lot being jam-packed with boats, could it be a feasible possibility to offer some overnight parking at the fairgrounds where it's also secure?
Yeah, actually, we offered that last year, but we didn't have enough boats to make that necessary. I don't know how that could work to put people that are racing down there, maybe shuttling back and forth. Typically at these races, you have the boat on the trailer with the truck in front of it, either a motor home or some other fifth wheel or something they can work with. And I think that's an important thing that gets the racers here. I don't think putting them offshore, I don't think I could make that work with the racers either. We did offer last year some of that kind of spaces because some people wanted RV locations, and the fairground made that available, but it wasn't necessary to do.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks.
Any other members of the public who care to address this item?
I'm Ed Posada, Lake Fork Yacht Club. I'll just have a very brief comment. Events like this one, it's going to bring a tremendous amount of interest to the boating community. I think that we should help them in any way that we can. Last year I thought it was terrific, and I'm sure there's going to be a good one this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
My name is Rolf Cricken. I'm part of the vintage racing that goes on. What Jack has not, we've got the Grand Nationals coming this time. It's a big deal. I mean, we're expecting a lot more people. The Grand Nationals draw a lot of people. And that's the big, and the K-boats, all these, and we are expanding, which is really local, what we're doing with the vintage, and it's becoming very exciting. And we're going to be participating in the August event as well, that other card, and soon, and that'll be mostly vintage as well. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Name's Bill Graham. I'm thinking that, from what I've seen, is it's not good to close all the ramps down to the public. A lot of people come up here to use the lake, and that having them all closed is actually just driving business away. I'm not against the races per se, but I think that there should be some way of keeping ramps open. I know during the fly-in, they're able to put down a kind of a deck so the planes can come in and out. That maybe something like that at Natural High should be done to help free up or create another launch for that time period. Thank you.
What's the possibility on that?
I'm sorry?
Like what they do with the flying, when you put in those ramps?
It's completely, at least from what I've seen at the fly-in, it's just a completely different thing. We're going to do an event that has the chance to be as big as this is going to be. Shutting down 2 ramps for 2 days, it's not ideal. It's 2 days, 3 days out of the time period. To produce a race that's going to be, that works, that runs smoothly and runs right. And this isn't new. We went through this last year in great detail too. That we're not, the race director wouldn't let there be issues where people are unloading boats and we're supposed to start racing, or they want to go out and do this testing tunes and other things that they call it. And he doesn't have control of it. There's 20 boats lined up getting in and out. I just don't see how that's going to work. If you want an event that operates like this, and that is going to be, we're just on the verge of adding the very best classes, making the show a lot better. I think it was a good idea, and it's a good idea now. The only person that should be arguing is me, because of the money I lost last year. But I can tell you that you guys got to have something good here, something that's going to be good. And it's not asking too much, because forever people can say, you know, you shouldn't do the World Series either. The roads are jammed, you can't get in and out. Not exactly the same, but really, you've got a unique situation here. I think you should capitalize on it. Number one, we race in the city. The racers and the fans don't, go out the gate at 6 o'clock and hit the restaurants and the bars and participate and spend money in the town. Having a race in a city like you're doing here is just fantastic. I mean, it's something that there's not a lot of other places that people can offer. And maybe that's not, I should have brought that up and dealt with it earlier, but you've got a unique situation here. And for a couple of days or 3 of inconvenience, last year there were multiple fishing tournaments. I'm trying to think if Doug knew how many, there was 3 or 4 that launched everywhere except Lakeport. And we had no problems at all. We interacted with them, we reached out to them and said it wasn't going to be a problem. Most of the feedback I got was that it was all good. So, did that answer your question, Tim? Sure.
So you would not advise putting down the ramps for Natural High then? We were saying that wouldn't work.
Oh, yeah, Natural High because of the way the layout is. In fact, the Sheriff's Department required last year, Doug supplied us with some barriers to seal off those things, so if a boat did get sideways headed to the land, that it wouldn't be able to get out in there. We have people who are parking cars and are doing other things there. I don't think that, if those could be ramps that could work. We use Natural High primarily for the Reach helicopter base that we have to take someone in and out because you have to go to the center, which is Santa Rosa. If those could be used to launch things, maybe something could be worked as long as the racers weren't out there. That would give Disney even more opportunities because there's quite a few places that the planes came in and out. Whether that would work for the ramps to launch, I don't know.
Tim, to answer your question, the biggest issue here, and unfortunately they're not here to address it, but when all the meetings that I attended and through the whole event last year, the Sheriff's Office Boat Patrol was very specific on areas they did not want people ingressing and egressing during the race periods. And that would include Natural High. That was a very big concern of theirs. So we had to provide delineation to actually close off, and then Jack staff had to man where the seaplanes come in and out to keep the public from coming down and crowding in there because the Sheriff's Office felt that that was a safety hazard. And they're the ones that set the south end perimeter. It's not us, that's all the Sheriff's Office. They're the ones that determine the size of the safety zone in areas that can and will be open for ingress and egress to the public. That's all done by the Sheriff's Office and not by us at all.
Last year, the ramps, the boat ramps, had maybe seconds in between when the next one was lining up. It was synchronized because these sanctions do it all over the United States, so these racers know what to expect. So it's kind of like your track meet, where one's up, one's on deck, one's on whatever. But to picture that kind of quick action and synchronized movement in natural high, I think that the structural improvements that would be required to be able to accommodate that level of activity are something that we would have to take years to get into place.
It wasn't for them to launch, it was like public launching it at Disney.
Yeah.
It didn't mean for the race to launch out of there.
Our Sculler group was pretty bummed we didn't get to do our row last year on Saturday morning, but yeah, safety was way more important than.
That's not true. He said you could scull from midnight to 6 a.m.
That was really big of you. I appreciate your trying to negotiate with us.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to stay and answer more.
And just so council remembers, we did take some of our surplus docks and we have them set up on Clear Lake Avenue. Actually, that went over so well that we're gonna be putting them, we end up leaving them in all of last season. We're gonna do the same. We're gonna install them the same time we install the docks out front. So that is going to start being a real regular feature because we seem to get a lot of use out of Clear Lake Avenue once we put the dock in. And so that ramp will be open and is usable the entire period that the race goes on. So it's not like we've shut every single ramp down in town. That's a two boat ramp at Clear Lake Avenue. So. And then we made the Dutch Harbor area available for overflow boat parking. It was a little bit of a walk from Dutch Harbor back down to Clear Lake Avenue, but there was no parking if someone wanted to launch there. That was an overflow option that was available. So those are the things that we did I'm just telling you what we did last year. Those were things we did last year.
So the ramp there, Scarlark, that didn't have any damage from the floods at all? I mean, was there something that we had to fix to make that work?
They used our docks.
Nope. We had removed our dock out of there because we pull all of our docks in the wintertime. And that is the only ramp we had in town that didn't get hammered, was Clear Lake Avenue.
So before we take it back to council for discussion, is there any further public input? No? Okay, so we'll close the public input portion of this and bring it back to the council for discussion.
Sorry? Well, I just asked Doug about the ramp because I live 2 blocks from it.
What was the last thing you said?
Oh, I asked him about the ramp having any problems because of the flooding.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
live 2 blocks from it. I would think that everything got hammered, but evidently not.
I think a lot of it has to do with the slope of that ramp and the elevation of that ramp. If you'll notice that ramp is the flattest ramp that we have in town. And so the wave action that occurs that got everything here, it just actually shot right up Clear Lake Avenue. It didn't stop at the ramp. And I believe that was part of the reason why we didn't have much damage on that ramp.
Madam Mayor, I would say this event was really fun last year and well attended, and I don't remember hearing any complaints afterwards. I have that same uncomfortable feeling I remember last year of closing the entire park and closing the ramps. But I think these huge, cool events bring economic vitality to our city and can really make a city, we're Lakeport, we should have events on our lake. And I think this application feels premature in that I wish that all the bills were paid, and I wish that fire and county had already approved it, and that there'd been outreach to the businesses on Main Street, so we knew, we had all that. If it wasn't such a short time frame, I would say bring it back, but since there's not really much time, I would look at approving it, but make it restricted to happening as long as all those past bills are paid, obviously to the city, but any of the other past bills from the previous event were paid, and that, you know, obviously all the other approvals were done, and that some outreach was made to those businesses to make sure they understand, and if they want to have further conversations with Disney, then I would look at moving forward.
Is that a motion?
I did have, I don't know if I can still make a comment.
Yeah, sure.
But I was gonna mention before Councilmember Martinez said that one concern I have is if it is approved, I would like to see some conditions and timelines on when we're gonna be notified of the other approvals, because I can't do any public notices until those approvals, until I know they're there. And at this point, we're only a month out and we haven't done any public notices on this event. So that would need to happen pretty soon, to start letting people know that we're not gonna have ramps open. Because last year we were way ahead of this, and we were already getting notices out by May 1st, I believe, or somewhere around there.
Do you have a time period you're recommending?
As soon as possible. I mean, I would say no more than 10 days from now, we need to have written notice of anything that we're requiring, anything that the council chooses to require, such as the recommendations on the fire approval plan, all the county approvals, and anything else council wishes to put requirements on. I think we need to have some assurances that those are done, because I don't want to be doing public notices until I know for sure everything's a go. And as of right now, we don't, unfortunately, we don't know. We don't have those.
If I could respond, we're meeting with the sheriff this week. I've already reached out to
Jack,
them.
can we get you on this?
Sure, sorry.
Thank you.
We certainly share the concern about the time issue. Our plan is by the 8th, we will have the supervisor's approval. And if we leave here with the approvals tonight, we can make it contingent upon getting that approval also. I don't have any problem with that. We need to make it happen as quickly as we can. As far as notices, Brad, if you'll just help me understand what that was. I don't recall how we proceeded on that last year.
Which notices?
Which, the ones you're talking about that haven't been made yet.
Well, the city has not made any public notices that this event is going, and be prepared that our park is completely closed. The ramps won't be open at 5th and 3rd Street from 6 a.m. Friday to 6 p.m. Sunday. Those are the critical things that I feel that the city has to get out to the public right away in all of our media avenues. Because you may have people, I mean, there's people that might have plans coming up here, they don't have that information.
Or what if someone's planning to get married in the gazebo?
There's gonna be boats in the background, and I hope they bought the ticket.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, it's just such a short time right now.
We didn't book anything for the gazebo during that time.
We
so
do book that?
We do
Okay.
book the gazebo, and anybody that doesn't book, they're taking a chance at not being
Okay.
used in the area, so.
Okay, so back to Brad's concern. You're going to meet with the county this week, and what about the fire and all those people?
I meet with Doug Hutchinson tomorrow.
Okay.
Whenever he's available, that's not an issue.
So we're saying by 10 days from now, you will have everybody else on board or not?
The only problem with that line is, I'm thinking, is that I have to deal with the sheriff's department, the Marine Patrol, the Board of Supervisors, and all those notice and things, and that's virtually outside of my control. I'm trying to accelerate that as much as I can for our own reasons. If I get a vote that approves us tonight here, I'll get with Brad and we'll start figuring out how to let the people know that the plan is to do that.
We're not gonna let anybody know until we know you have all the approvals.
Okay.
That's where the problem is.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a problem, it's just, we want it conditional on that, and I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, but I'd like to see that all those bills are paid too.
Not a problem.
Okay.
I supplied a list of what's owed and testified or stated to Brad that we have.
You're ready to move forward on that, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, you can make it conditional, yeah, it's all gonna come down at once, given the lead time that we have. The plan to do it with the city, we've been in discussions for months and months with, you know, Brad and with Margaret, and it was always our intent to make this happen again. And we just ended up with the short lead time that we got. And I tried to actually relocate to October, thinking it might be better. And it was just too much of a logistical for the racers and the other people to make it work. The only thing I'd like to add too is that when you're considering this, you know, this is the Lakeport Sprint Boat Grand Prix. It's the name that we chose to put on it. Your name is in front of it. Every bit of advertising and every bit of emails and all of the websites and things that we do, it does our job to let us support the fact you're letting us do the race. And that's something that's, I don't think it's been overlooked, but I haven't brought it to the attention of the people, but it's a Lakeport Sprint Boat Grand Prix.
I would say that, by the next council meeting, the 15th, we could bring back a report to council as to where everything is, to approve it on condition and make sure that everything's met by then. It's only 2 weeks before the race. I'm hoping it's approved by then. That'd be pretty hard, but maybe we could do some ads anyway, so it wouldn't be, instead of waiting for 2 weeks just before, start doing some public notices anyway, because we do have a conditional approval to get that out to the public as soon as possible.
Does that work, Brad?
Council decided to do a conditional approval.
Yeah, we can do whatever.
There's no time limit in which we have to make the public aware that we're closing a public.
No, there's certain time limits, like for closing streets and, notifications, but because we are closing off most of our park, and people might be coming to visit, to use the lake, the sooner we can get the word out what's happening, and it might make more people want to be here. I mean, we're not saying it's going to deter people necessarily from being here.
There's nothing in writing saying you
We just
have
want
to
to get the information out, yeah.
2 weeks worth of notice.
Yeah,
You have to give a month worth of
There's no
notice.
legal
There's no
on that,
legal
it's more of a.
requirement. It was just my feeling, and why I said that the more notice we can give the public,
Right.
the better, because people from out of town that might be coming here have no idea
But
right now.
if we get conditional permission from the council tonight, then I believe it should be a go-ahead to start doing some of the public information.
Could I just respond to that quickly? I'm sorry. Last year, 2 or 3 weeks before the race, we had some issues that we weren't able to say that the county had approved it. Our ticket sales went to 0 when that hit the media. I'm comfortable with the conditional approval. I'm going to do everything I can to get it through the county and to get the teams up here to do it. If I could do it by the end of this week, I would, but a conditional approval at least, provided that we get the county to sign off on it too. That's what we really need. We're offering tickets and that money's all going into an account that won't be touched until all the approvals are done. It's the same with the sponsorship money. That's why waiting to pay off the people that we still owe money from last year, the funds are there, but we can't do it until we get the approval for this race. So that's where we are.
So if the conditions are met prior to the meeting, we can move forward with notifications earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
And is there a way that we as a council can get notifications of what steps they're in before the council meeting, or is that not
We can do an
legal?
informational message to you as to where it is. You just can't respond back or communicate with each other. Yeah. It's just information only out.
Okay.
Does council have any more questions? Discussion?
More question.
Motion.
Horribly torn on this one between, doing the event and closing off all the public space and
Well, remember, that's what we said last year, and we said we need to try these events for a couple years and get a full sense, how they progress and how people feel about them. And then we need to remember this next year and really look at it and decide how we want to handle it moving forward, and do we want to charge to, the event to close off the park, and look at those things. But we kind of do need to see what the event can actually be. So I'll make a motion to conditionally approve the Lakeport Sprint Boat Grand Prix event with council recommendations that by May 10th, the event will have approval from fire, approval from county, all past bills have been paid, and there's outreach to the Main Street businesses of the street closure.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I heard you breathe, but that's not a nay.
It's sort of like what Tim said, but I guess we should give it one more year and see if it works. So, not opposed, I guess.
Any opposed?
Can we also work toward a solution to make it easier for the general public to launch during this time from Clear Lake Avenue? And I'm not sure what that would be, but there seems to be a gap in the people that we service on a regular basis. Our community members, the people who are already coming up and visiting, who already use the lake.
That's why we tried to make it.
Gap there.
That's why we tried to make it easier last year with putting the docks on Clear Lake Avenue and getting the word out as soon as possible that Clear Lake Avenue is open so people know where they can go and where they can park.
We can do signage too.
Yeah.
But it worked last year. I didn't get any complaints.
I got one or two, but yelled at by people and
So going back to we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Need a roll call vote?
I don't know. Do we need a roll call?
Did you vote?
I'll say aye, unfortunately.
Are there any opposed?
I can't abstain, right?
No.
No.
No? Then I guess I'm in favor.
Okay. So that's 4 in favor, with 1 abstaining. No, can you abstain or is he absent? He's absent. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Oh, here he comes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We will move on to our next item. Approve the budget adjustment to fund the sewer main project and authorize the city manager to negotiate and sign the MOU subject to legal review. Doug.
Actually, I'm going to let Paul.
Sorry, hi Paul.
Madam members of the council, I'm here to seek a budget adjustment to replace approximately 290 feet of sewer main. Little background on this project is the Lakeport Unified School District. There's a construction project underway that's called the TMS Learning Resource Center Quad Project, and it's happening behind the Terrace School. It's well underway. I was called out to investigate our sewer main as they were going through and doing their project. And as it turns out, they're going to be right on top of a 6-inch AC main, which is undersized compared to the main that's upstream from it, which is a 10-inch. And it's also aged, which means the AC pipe could have a potential break. They're proposing to build a quad over the top of it with lots of concrete and structures around. So I'm proposing that we replace the main. And working with the school district, we found it to be a mutual benefit to replace it so we're not in there tearing up concrete in the future, and also so it's upsized for the future development. So in working with the school district, They agreed to provide us with a quote from the contractor that's on site for the sake of time. The quote's attached here in the amount of $57,845. That's to replace the 290 linear feet plus 2 manholes. And the school district has agreed to do a change order. And with a change order, they would provide an MOU, which would be subject to review by legal counsel, and for the city manager to sign and approve. And we would fund them as part of the project. Also, as part of the MOU, we currently do not have an easement, a legal easement going through the school district. As part of the MOU agreement, that would also be, we would acquire an easement so we have legal access to go into the future to do any repairs to the main. So with that, I also wanted to note that I did provide a project site map, that there is an inaccuracy on there that is to be replaced with 8 inch, it's actually 10 inch. So I just want that noted on there. And so that's where we stand, if there are any questions.
Thank you. Council have questions?
So the main's still gonna go under the building though, right?
It's not under a building, it's actually under a lot of concrete. The buildings, the structures will be off the main. But there will be concrete over the main, that's why we want to put a brand new main in there that's sized appropriately.
Okay.
And with the sewer main, of course, there's access to it on both sides with manholes, and so it's unlikely with a new main that anything's gonna happen for years to come, but it's vulnerable right now because of the age and the material that's constructed of.
Okay. But if worst comes to worst, we could always jackhammer the concrete.
That's correct, and that's the importance of the easement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just concerned that it's not gonna go, have to tear a building down to get to it if we
No.
had to. Okay.
Is there any member of the public who would care to address this issue? Seeing none, we'll bring it back.
It looks like we're getting a pretty good deal for this work. Is that,
Yes, I ran the numbers and I figured about 15 grand of that would be the manholes, the purchase of the manholes and the installation. So the linear feet is about $147 a foot, which is very comparable to if a contractor from an outside would come in and do the work. So yes, it's right in line with what it would cost to have somebody else replace it.
Industry
standard.
I forgot that line went under there. It's so weird, isn't it? Is that a little unusual?
Yeah, it's suspected we're projecting that in the past it probably started out as the original sewer main for the school, and then development happened behind Jerry and Anastasia, and we do have a legal easement coming through the field area and then tying into that existing. So, so just historically kind of got built on.
And one other question is, it seems like naturally we didn't budget for this, so the 60,000 you're asking for, do we have that in a slush fund type thing?
We do not have
Where's it
slush
gonna come
funds
from?
here.
No slush fund. Where is that 60,000 coming from?
I don't know what slush fund you're referring to, but we do have $60,000 in the operating and maintenance, the sewer operating and maintenance fund. And it sounds like it could possibly be a sewer expansion
Correct.
project in which there's over $1 million sitting in sewer expansion fund.
That's the enterprise.
And the enterprise slush fund.
No, so.
Shame on you.
Madam Mayor, if there's nothing else, I approve the budget adjustment to fund the sewer main project and authorize the city manager to negotiate and sign the MOU subject to legal review.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That one was loud and clear.
And we will move on to city council communications. Margaret?
Nothing to report.
David?
No report, thanks.
Doug?
One thing I report is we've got our SB1 application submitted, and so hopefully it's under. We got an email back. It's under review, and hopefully we're going to get approval with no problems and be able to utilize those funds for furthering our road projects.
Nick?
Nothing to report.
Paul? Anything
Nothing
else?
to report.
Kevin?
Nothing to report.
Kelly?
No report.
All right. Chief, did you have anything else?
No, I'm sorry, I had to walk out, but no, I'm good.
Councilmember Spur?
Was at a meeting today about the algae blooms, and that's kind of interesting. There was a bunch of people from Water Resources and stuff talking about taking samples and how they're going to notify the public, and they're talking to the county health department about it and how CDC gets involved. So it was quite interesting to do, although the city, from my understanding, if they have to post signs, the county will give them to the city, and then the city will post signs. So, but it was very informal and informational, so that's what I did today.
Thank you. Councilmember Parlett.
No report.
Councilmember Bettina.
No report.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No report.
I would just then like to announce that we have our Redwood Empire League of California Cities Regional Division meeting here this week. So we'll be welcoming our fellow cities from the Redwood Empire area. Congressman Thompson is our special guest. So that is all I have to report. Thanks very much, everybody, for attending. We're going to go ahead and adjourn.
Question?
Oh, Mr. Posada?
I don't know if we missed it, for the cardboard inductive regatta.
I think that, wasn't that on our?
It was approved.
Yep, we approved
It was
it.
approved on the consent agenda.
Okay. I just had a couple of comments, if you don't mind. I know it's been a long session. My name is Edward Posada. I live at 1580 McMahon Road in Lakeport. I'm the Vice Commodore at Lakeport Yacht Club, presenting, as you know, our 12th annual regatta. And I just wanted to mention that it cost the Yacht Club about $500 for 8 trophies and medal medallions for everybody. We've been saddled with a cost. Previously, the insurance requirement for the city was $1 million. Somewhere along the line, it went up to $2 million. Our coverage, insurance is $1 million. For the additional $1 million, it costs us $1,000 a year. And we'd like to consider, I'd like you to consider reducing it back to $1 million to save us the extra $1 million. And that was about it. I just had a few other things. It's been a long session. So if you would consider that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.